What does it really mean to be a coach? Welcome to episode 114 of the Passion Fit Coaching podcast. So we're going to be talking today about exactly what I just said.
What it says on the tin.
What it says on the tin. What it means to be a coach. Because for me, this is a really important subject. I think it's very current in the sense that I think there's a lot of confusion in the world in general about what coaching really is and what it's meant to be and what it looks like. And in our sport, or the sport that we generally specialise in, triathlon and endurance sports, there's definitely a lot of confusion.
Big time.
When I think back to my journey outside of sport, or in different sports and in the corporate environment, I still think there was a big misunderstanding about what being a coach really meant. We're going to give some ideas around what it should look like. So for those of you that maybe don't recognise what opportunity there is out there for you to have the right support or effective support of a coach, you maybe understand a little bit more, and also just challenge some of the beliefs that we have around how we define coaches and coaching.
Yeah.
So before we go on to what I think,
Yeah.
we talk a lot about what I think. What do you think, Liz? Because we're all coaches and coachees to some extent.
Yes.
Whether if you support other people, you're a coach. If you have someone support you, you're a coachee.
Yeah.
But even if you have neither, arguably you're both.
Yes.
Because you're always your coach to yourself, and you're always a coachee from yourself, aren't you? So you're always giving yourself coaching and receiving coaching from yourself, unless you're completely apathetic about
everything.
Yeah. So every time you endeavour to do something, let's say, for example, you want to get better at cooking.
Yes.
And you watch
MasterChef?
I don't know, yeah. I've actually never watched MasterChef. But let's say you've watched MasterChef and you decide to try and get better at cooking. You're coaching yourself. You're using resource to coach yourself to get better at cooking. And you're receiving your own coaching.
Yeah.
So in one way or another, we're all kind of in that space. But obviously you have me as a coach more specifically.
I did.
And you also specifically coach people. So your profession is coaching people.
Yeah.
And you are also coached by me, and you're coached by me to be better at two of your professions. One, a coach.
Yeah.
I coach you to coach.
Yeah.
And I also coach you as a person and an athlete, right? So you kind of have a lot of connections to being a coachee and a coach. What are your thoughts about this? What do you think being a coach really means?
Well, it's definitely changed over the years.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking back to when I first decided to actually get a coach, because you've actually been the only coach that I have ever had in my athletic journey. Not in my professional journey, in my athletic journey.
Yeah.
And,
Am I?
well, I've never had another coach before.
So when you played hockey at Loughborough, was there a coach?
Well, but not really.
There was a coach.
There was a coach, yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say it was coaching.
Okay.
And this is what I was going to do.
When you did a bit of cycling at university, did people help you?
Coach. Well, no, the lads helped me.
Right.
Yeah. But
So I'm the first formal professional coach on a one-to-one basis you've had for your sporting journey.
Yeah, because everything else has been more, voluntary by the students or the clubs that I've been in.
That's a good start point then, maybe, in terms of defining what coaching really is. Is it somebody who gets paid for what they do? Is it someone that has a formal relationship with you as a coachee, or is it just anybody that supports you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think on this one.
I know, you chose this.
Well, because I haven't really thought about it in that depthly, because I think where the definition is because they definitely have been some form of it's coach versus mentor, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
I probably see some of
There's a blurred line
in
there,
the past as more like mentors. For example, when I first did some form of triathlon and went to the local tri club, it was voluntary coaches who weren't specifically coaching me, but were coaching the session.
Yeah.
But giving, I used to have my notebook and I'd always write down what we did afterwards and if they'd given me any specific feedback. But I would say, you are the first, sort of one-on-one coach that I've ever actually had support with.
So where you've specifically contracted with me that my job is help you with
Yeah.
X.
Up until
Yeah.
that point, I've had experience of like wider coaches as such,
Okay.
but they've been there to coach the whole group,
Okay.
not the individual.
Okay. And you haven't specifically contracted with them that that's what they're going to do.
No,
Okay.
no,
I understand.
because
what
they're
you
there
mean,
as part of like the
So
club
it's-
setup,
so-
or
I'm the first formalised setup that you've had.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
correct.
okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So that's where it's probably
Okay.
different. So yeah, I've
Okay.
had experience.
Right,
of
that
it.
makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and I think only then if you contrast with the work environment I was in,
Okay.
I'd say it's only then coaching from like a specific, well, from my line manager,
Yeah.
or another allocated person within the business
Okay.
that was there to be
Yeah.
supporting me outside of being
Okay.
that direct line report.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
so
right.
that is, I'd say, correct.
Okay. So
So when I first started coaching,
Yeah.
so I would say that was my first proper experience of direct coaching from
Yeah.
the athletic side. In my head, it was going to be very much tell do.
right.
It was more of a, I think I was probably in that, when I look back to the place that I was in as well, I was more in that like outsourcing ownership space
Right.
of, it was, okay, if I get a coach, because I've got this idea that I would like to do an Ironman,
Yeah.
and that's what I want to train specifically for,
Yeah.
they will take me to that point.
Okay. They'll tell me what to do to get there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell them that I want to do this event on this date.
Yeah,
And I'm going to get somebody who I believe to be an expert to tell me what I need to do, when I need to do it, so that I'm ready to do that event on that date.
yeah,
That's what you saw as being a coach.
Yeah.
Okay. Has that perception of what being a coach is changed then?
yes.
Okay. So how has it changed?
Well, now it's, I say, someone who asks you more questions,
Okay.
in that it's now about, for me, it's never now you telling me what to do, and my perception was that would be the solution.
Yeah.
Now for me, a coach is someone who's going to ask the challenging questions to make you look at yourself, think and reflect, to then decide what your actions are going to be,
Okay.
rather than being just prescriptive and directive.
Yeah.
And also challenging you with, because I thought as well, in my head I was like, what you'll do is, as a coach when I first
Yeah.
started, was you'll just look at that training plan piece,
Yeah.
and that'll be it. Like, you won't have any involvement in anything else I'm doing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to have visibility of any other like commitments I'm going on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking back right to like when I was working at Severn Trent Water,
Yeah.
and I was actually quite surprised when I started like working with you as a coach,
Yeah.
of how different what it was versus what I thought it was going to be.
Right. Yeah.
Because I recognised like quite early on, when you started to ask me a load of other things about like what does my actual like week look like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, right, okay, well every Wednesday I'm in Birmingham. You're like, right, okay, we're gonna have to factor like that into like
Yeah.
the flow of the week,
Yeah.
and things like, well, what are you like doing? What's your sleep like? And like, how are your like overall like stress levels? What else is going on
Yeah.
like day to day that's gonna have an impact on
Yeah.
on anything
Sleep.
else?
Stress.
Yeah, okay. Gosh,
Back then, definitely.
gosh,
Yeah.
flipping heck, like I didn't wear a watch then or have one, but
Yeah.
I dread to think what
Yeah.
my sleep was.
You
Especially
did a lot of sleeping, not when you were supposed to be sleeping.
Well, yeah, I went through
Yeah.
quite a few periods, and I was like 11 hours, 12 hours sleep, and
Yeah. Another 5 hours in a day. Yeah.
yeah. So that probably surprised me. It took me
Okay.
a little bit back about how in depth you were going, not into just like, was I doing the training as such, because that wasn't
Yeah.
really ever a conversation.
Right.
Because that was kind of a given, really.
Yeah.
I know that isn't the case for like everyone, but
Mm.
for me, it wasn't a case of I wasn't going to not do
No.
the sessions.
Okay.
It was more about how was I then thinking whilst I was executing them,
Yeah.
and what were the other variables that could have impacted or like influenced how that went, and also then how did I then carry myself into the following days.
So what you experienced was different from what you had expected.
Yeah.
And how is that, now you're a coach yourself, how has that changed your perception of what, like, how would you now think about what coaching really is, and how has it changed the way you approach it?
Like,
I'm going to have a drink of my dash water. I feel like Ricky Gervais when you just stand up.
I don't know if you could put
he has
that
like
as
a can of
an ad,
Foster's.
you've probably got to like
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. They don't pay us, so it's alright.
It's changed a lot, because I think if I had gone into coaching like historically,
Yeah.
I would have thought it more as like like plan, do,
Yeah.
and that would be it of how I'd have like worked with someone,
Yeah.
rather than actually taking the time
So write them
to
a training plan and then do.
And even if I think
yeah.
about like
yeah.
from like when I used to coach, say like gymnastics and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and another experience of coaching when I was younger, it very much was, this is the session plan.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do today, guys. And I have started to write like a short blog on it because there is like quite a few experiences where I realised I probably was never that sort of coach. But at the time, I didn't know that other coaches coach differently to be able to see it. I was just following what I'd seen and observed.
That's quite an interesting point. We'll come back to that maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, but because there is a story, but I won't like say it now. But it's probably one of the like my proudest coaching moments I actually think I've ever had to date. It was actually probably when I was like 13 or 14. But yeah, and
Is it, you don't want to tell the story?
Well, it's okay. I will tell this story.
Yeah, tell it.
So there was this girl. She was called Stephanie, and she.
If you were 13 or 14, she must have been a lot younger.
Yeah, she was only like 6 or something.
I was going to say,
6 or 7 or like
she was like 18.
No. And like you could tell there was always the kids, like, so I taught all 3 classes. We had like beginners, intermediate, advanced. And there was always the kids that you could see had just a natural aptitude for like gymnastics, had the coordination there. And there's always those who also didn't.
Yeah.
And she fell into the latter category. Like she had no natural aptitude for it all. Like bundles of enthusiasm. Yeah. Like super keen. She loved coming to gymnastics, but she couldn't do a forward roll. And that's like one of the most basic. Like,
I remember
movements.
forward rolls when I did my BAGA.
Exactly.
4 or whatever it was.
Yeah. Oh, well done.
Yeah.
She couldn't do a forward roll, and we had been working on it for ages, like how to get that like sort of movement there and stuff like that. And I remember her mum over the weeks, she'd like I was pretty chilled with the parents wanted to come in for the last like 5-10 minutes. They could come and watch. And her mum said to me, she's like, look, she's not getting it. Like, look at the other kids. Look how well they're doing. And they're on to like forward rolls into handstands and backward rolls into handstands and stuff like that now. And like, she's like, she's not getting it. And I was like, it's all right. She's still like, she's there. She's committed and she's doing it. And I remember like the first time she ever did like a proper forward roll, I was literally like running around the gym in circles, like just super elated for her. And I went and like found her mum, like grabbed her, and I think I'd even like phoned up to reception to put it on the tannoy to her mum to come down.
Oh, that's cool.
And to come and see her do it. And I'm going to start crying a bit, but her mum was really disappointed. And because it'd taken her so long, like relative to the other kids, to get to that point. Yeah. And she's like, well, like, why? It doesn't look as good as the other kids. I'm like, really? I'm like, she's put her heart and soul into getting to this, like... That's
a whole other conversation, that one, isn't
it? This, now I look back and I'm thinking, I was only like young at the time as well, and like having to like try and have that conversation and stuff. And that for me was like when you probably realise like how invested I was in that moment for her. Yeah. And also like can see it almost at that time when I look back at some of the models we use now, like recognising like what her potential was and how she had maximised her potential in that moment. Yeah. And like absolutely nailed it. And I think for me, like I don't think training plan writing as a coach would have ever been enough, because you're not invested in the person and like sharing that feeling of when they unlock something from themselves that they might have felt that they had but couldn't quite put those pieces together to make that happen.
So your perception of being a coach was sort of somebody that would tell you what to do and then you would choose whether you did or didn't do it. And now your perception of that has changed dramatically. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if you were now, if someone said to you, you know, like, I'm getting a coach, and for some reason or other it couldn't be you. Yeah. What would you tell them they needed to be looking for, do you think?
I would say the most important thing for me was, has that person got capacity?
A cool haircut like me.
Well, and tattoos. Yeah. Is that person going to be invested in you? Yeah. Do they really care about your journey? Yeah. And like having the conversations with you about what your goals actually are, and basically are they not gonna let you be like deluded into like leading you on a path basically of like, okay, well you've set yourself these goals, and not actually just not having that harder conversation to go into, is it even realistic for you to have those goals based on like your whole life? I think it's a big watch out of like, you almost need to interview your coach of, are they just going to give you here's your lift and shift training plan, go and do this and that'll get you to what you need to, rather than asking all of the questions about, okay, what's your like home life balance like, what does your work look like, how much actual available time have you got, how much do you actually want to do, because that's the other thing as well. So I think it's for me, it's looking at asking all of the questions and getting to know someone, understanding their personality type, like what's even their why for doing, like wanting to embark on a journey with a coach.
So a lot of things.
And the goals, loads of things. It's an endless list, isn't it, really?
What do you see as, you mentioned mentoring a little while ago.
Yeah.
Because I'm always not quite sure I agree with, if you were to look this up on the internet, the difference between a mentor and a coach. I think often, well, what do you see as the difference between a mentor and a coach? Just get myself into a super macho sitting position.
Sorry, I'm compensating for you.
This is true, you are. Yeah.
You got the nails done.
Yeah.
So mentor and a coach.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard actually to distinguish, because in my head I can feel what the difference might be. For me, like a mentor is someone you almost like more, I say, observe and shadow.
Yeah.
Because like from the experiences I've had, and this is why I feel like there is a difference, is a mentor was someone for me who was like a little bit further afield from my actual day-to-day. And this is only in the work environment where I've had like a specific mentor. And more to guide you, I'd say, on a directed path. Yeah. To, like, in my case, like at work, it was like, okay, well, what experience, the breadth of experience do you need to get to work towards that next promotion, for example? Rather than thinking about everything else in balance. So I'd say mental for me was less holistic.
See,
more.
I wonder what the internet says about it.
Like,
I'm going to
ask.
I'm just going to Google it. Coach versus mentor. Here we go. Let's see what it has to say. So, a coach.
That's what I feel like I said.
A coach guides individuals to discover solutions and achieve specific goals, while a mentor shares experience and advice to support broader personal and career development. Now that, I'll be honest with you, I tend to agree with more. One of the things I often hear from people is that a coach is someone who perhaps asks you questions, helps you find solutions for yourself. A mentor is someone tells you what to do, is more directive. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think a mentor is someone that takes even more of a backseat than a coach and is less interactive with you. And like you said, might share experiences and advice with you, but wouldn't necessarily tell you what to do. So that feels a lot better for me, because I always felt I came across a lot of examples where people imply that mentors were kind of like, you go and see a mentor, and a mentor would say, well, why don't you do this or do that? And I didn't really feel that was the case. My experience of what I would consider mentors was more them telling me stories, like you say, sharing experiences, sharing things that they'd learned in their lifetime that I might then be able to apply to my journey, rather than like specifically guiding me in a direction like a coach might a little bit more. But there's definitely an overlap between the two.
There is.
And I think it's certainly possible for someone to fulfill
like both
an element of both of those roles quite well. Okay, so before I go off on a rant, so where are we? We're like
20 minutes
20 odd minutes in. And I probably am going to have a bit of a... I've been told...
You haven't actually had like a ranty bit on the podcast for ages?
No, because I've been trying really hard to be more professional and more aligned with... Do you know what? I need to really think about this, because I think when I'm not ranty, I'm a little bit disingenuous. Is that the word? Disingenuous? Insincere? Yeah. Authentic? Not authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I do get quite frustrated with quite a lot of things, and the entire framework that we have in place is a little bit driven by frustration of the world that we find ourselves in, and the damaging impact it's doing to people without them even knowing that that's the case. And I do spend quite a lot of time quite frustrated, and I recognise that. Well, I certainly recognise that the general narrative in like a media and social media space is quite positive all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And quite careful. The irony is that I think that's boring. I think people are a bit bored of that. I certainly get more positive feedback from people when I have a rant.
Yes.
Or I say something a bit more edgy. Not like, there's a difference between saying something edgy that's aligned with your own values than just cheap laughs. One of the things that irritates me a bit about a lot of like in the world of triathlon, you get these podcasts all the time at the moment, these podcasts coming up where people think they're going to be banter heroes, you know, and but what they end up doing is they just end up picking at good things, you know, like because it's an easy laugh, and it's just childish, it's just immature, and it's in-betweenerish. But I do think there's a space for, you know, challenging the norms and the things that maybe are more flawed than we realise. And I do get a bit of feedback from people that's quite positive when I'm a bit more ranty. So for those of you who like a rant, then maybe maybe this one will escalate. We'll see, because I probably can relax more into it when I rant, if I'm honest. But before I do that, is there anything else you want to add that you think?
No,
is
I want to get to the rant now.
Okay. Look, there's I can't remember who said this. We maybe have to look at your phone.
No, because it's
you can do it.
recording.
You can do it on my go. Oh yes, it is. You can do it on my. Here's Lydia takes the mick at me because I was referred to my laptop as my computer.
And do like the typing like that.
I do typing like that. Do you want to have a look? Who was it who said a coach is someone that gets you to do what you don't want to do, so you can be who you always wanted to be? Who said that? I can't remember who it was who said that. You find it for me. Whose quote is that? This is good podcasting, isn't it? Won't be so bad if you're watching it on YouTube, because you'll be able to see Lydia typing.
You might be able to hear the typing on the microphone.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment it's coming up as the international coach.
So Lydia can't find the answer. Okay. There is a saying that a coach is, you know, a well-known quote, well-known saying. A coach is someone who gets you to do what you don't want to do, so you can be who you always wanted to be. Now, I've always loved that quote. I really have. But I think for me, as I've grown and I've learned, I don't think that's true.
Tom Landry.
Tom Landry, that was it. Okay. Now, Tom Landry is certainly very credible, and we don't want to challenge that too much. But of course, like lots of things, like for example, science, you know, anything, things evolve, the world changes, and as it changes, we have to consider whether what we once thought to be true and appropriate might need to change, may not be anymore. And as much as that isn't untrue, I think there's a lot more to coaching than that statement suggests, especially as we've evolved.
Yeah.
And for me as a coach, if that was my role, if that was the role that a coachee asked me to fulfill, I'd be a little bit disappointed in them, to be honest with you, and probably wouldn't coach them. Because that's not a coach. For me, that's an accountability partner. That's somebody, you know, if that's what you're looking for, then you don't want a coach. You want someone, like I said, an accountability partner, instructor, someone who's going to hold you to account, a micromanager to some extent. Because you should be prepared to do whatever. If something's important enough to you, you should be prepared to do what you should want to do, whatever you need to do to achieve that version of you or that goal that you have. Now, we're not talking about values and beliefs. You know, what some people are prepared to do compared to what other people are prepared to do may be different. Some people are prepared to cheat. By definition, I suppose you could say cheating's wrong. But you know, people will see things differently, and that's not what I hear. You know, that's not my place to question. I might not agree with the way someone goes about getting to their goal. That doesn't make me right. It just means that my values are X and their values are Y. You know, so if we've got examples, someone like Lance Armstrong. You know, I don't agree with what he did. He wouldn't agree with me. That doesn't make him right or me right. We're just different. But for me, I think there's more to coaching than that. And for me, I think coaching is more around, for me as a coach, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to see something that my coaches could never see, so I can help them become someone they never knew they could be. That's what coaching is for me. It's about being that person who can see a future for someone that they don't have the ability to see for one reason or another, and then you show them the opportunity they have to get there. You don't make them do what they need to do, because they will do that anyway. They will do that because they want that. But your job is to help them to see the way, to see the path, to get them to there, and potentially to get them to something they never thought that they could do. It's almost like showing them the yellow brick road to the Emerald City. And for me, you know, we talk about this all the time. It's that Jonathan Livingston seagull example, isn't it? You know, it's being the seagull that gets Jonathan thinking in a way he never thought he could think to achieve something he never thought a seagull could achieve. And that's what coaching is all about. And of course it does, yes, of course it overlaps with mentoring, because you need an element of experience in you for you to be able to share with somebody you know, ways of thinking, examples for them to start being able to see that opportunity. It's a bit like, it's a bad example, but it's a bit like Yoda, isn't it, in Star Wars? But that's what Yoda does, doesn't it? You know, what he does is he shows Luke something that Luke, you know, couldn't see, and then shows him, or it certainly leads him to the path to getting there. And that's what coaching for me is all about. And I get really, this is the bit that really gets on my tits, is the number of people that refer to themselves as coaches, and they are not even close to that. They are not even close to that. It is not enough for you to be somebody that provides someone with a training or development plan. That's not what being a coach is. So if you think about it from an athletic perspective, it's about someone thinking they're a coach when in endurance sports they write a training plan for somebody. Like, so yeah, I'm a coach because I can write you a training plan, and then I can review what you've done and then write you the next phase of that training plan. That's a trainer. That's not a coach, that's a trainer. And AI can do a bloody good job of that these days, to be honest with you. Yes, your AI isn't going to take into consideration a lot of the human nuances. Is that the right word? Thanks. My English language, Lydia's like my little English language corrector. You're like my little AI, sort of like English language AI sitting in the chair next to me to correct.
Yeah, it's quite easy. I find it easier having a conversation with AI because it's just like...
Yes. So, yeah, that's not coaching. And in our world, in our sport, the sport that we specialise in, 99%, I'm going to stick.
Easily.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with that at all.
That's what you're getting. You know, people are like, well, why do you charge £400 a month for coaching? Because we don't just write you a training plan. I don't even write the training plan of my coaches.
No.
Do I?
No.
Right? So I don't have a coachee at the moment that I write the training plan for. All my coaches write their own training plan because it's not very difficult. That's why. Even for a professional athlete, it's not difficult, is it?
No.
It's pretty easy, right? And you know what? Maybe if you want to squeeze out the finest margins of human capability as an endurance athlete, maybe you do need a trainer. And that person probably needs to be an expert in sports science, biological sciences, all those kinds of things, performance, that I'm not. I'm not those things. And you can't even probably have one. Because in our sport, you would need someone who was an expert in human physiology, human biomechanics, strength and conditioning, aerodynamics, swim technique, one person couldn't fulfill all those roles. That would be near impossible, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You couldn't be an expert. It couldn't be expert enough. But then the problem you've got is that if you have multiple experts, how do you know they all align with each other? There's a really good example of this. This is the problem with having a rant. I go off on tangents. There's a really good example of this. For those of you familiar with the TV series Quantum Leap, are you familiar with that?
I thought we were talking about MasterChef then.
No.
No.
It's about a guy called Sam Beckett, who's a scientist, and he works out how to travel through time. Okay, to some extent. One of the things about Sam is that he has these multiple PhDs. So he's an expert in multiple areas.
Loads of things.
So instead of you having multiple experts that have to communicate all that information to each other, he has them all in one brain.
Yeah.
So therefore he's able to think in a way that nobody else could think, because he can think in all these different ways, in all these different areas of expertise, and bring it all together without a communication breakdown, right? So for me, even if you're fulfilling the role of a trainer, arguably there's going to be limitations in that.
Yes.
But coaching is so people that are writing training plans and calling themselves coaches, I just think that's wrong. And I think it's really misleading for coaches. I don't think that's who you are. Now, you might do that and fulfill the role of a coach, but doing that on its own isn't fulfilling the role of a coach.
Correct.
And the same goes for personal trainers and gyms. At least personal trainers and gyms call themselves personal trainers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The same is true of the corporate environment. Just writing someone a plan to follow, to develop, or managing them to deliver certain behaviours and to therefore then deliver certain results isn't coaching. Coaching is about understanding the individual and helping the individual grow in such a way that they grow in all areas of their life, and they grow in a way that's aligned with who they are, what they want out of their journey, their start point and their potential, and that those different things all support each other. That's what coaching is. Coaching is helping the coachee work out what they want, what their goals are, not telling them what their goals should be. So how many coaches, for example, influence their coachees to think, right, okay, like, so as a triathlon coach, what can happen is an athlete can come to you, or a coach can come to you and say, right, I want to get better at triathlon. And then you, as an expert, you discover that they've got X ability to be a certain standard as an athlete. So you could say, right, you could be, so in your case, a professional, not just a professional, but an Ironman winning professional, right?
Yeah.
I coach another lady at the moment. Lady, girl, woman, I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I would probably call her a girl, but she would probably be angry if I called her that, so I won't.
Cover all bases.
She'll be listening to this next week, so I will find out whether I got
you'll
that
get some
right.
feedback, won't you?
And she has exceptional physiological potential. Do you know what? And I can give her an indication of where she might be able to get to, but it's not my place to decide where she should be trying to aim for. I'm not even really there to influence it. I'm not there to influence her to try and aim for her maximum physiological potential, because that might conflict with what's important to her. It might conflict with other areas of her life, like her professional career or her personal life. And I can't, not only should I not write her a plan to get her there, I shouldn't even influence her to consider that that's important to her. What I should be doing is helping her work out what is important to her, and then helping support her get to that point. It isn't my place to try, oh my God, you're so talented, you could do this, you could do that, that's what you should aim for. It's the same with you, Liz.
Yeah.
My goal isn't to say to you, you should do this, you could do that, that's what we should aim for. I'm trying to encourage you and motivate you to achieve that, because how do I know that that isn't going to have a detrimental effect on some other area of your life that I don't understand well enough? Maybe you just don't want that much, and getting you there might temporarily feel motivating and exciting and fulfilling, but it might not necessarily in the long run. So my job as a coach is to get you to understand what really, really is important to you, ideally at a deep level, so that you can pursue that. Now, for me as a coach, it's introducing individuals to the toolkit that we use, the framework that we use, that is universal. So the framework, even if you wanted to be a world-class bank robber, it's true, right? Yeah. I don't know anything about robbing banks, okay? Funnily enough. Maybe I should.
I was going to say...
Do you know, I possibly do know a bit about robbing banks, but we won't go there.
Not that you robbed a bank, just to
Not only
caveat
just
before
to
panicking.
I
You
haven't.
used to work in the banking industry.
Yes, I haven't ever robbed a bank.
Like, right, okay. Straight on.
To be fair, I probably wouldn't be very good at robbing the bank, because even with the safe codes, I could barely ever open the safe.
Not a surprise.
No, it's really difficult, actually.
Or you just get too distracted forgetting you're robbing a bank and be like, oh yeah, what was I actually doing?
Well, bank safes, the dials don't click.
It's not like in the films.
It's not like in the films. They don't click. So it's really difficult to... Anyway, we won't go down that. That is a rabbit hole.
Back to your rant.
What was my rant? Oh, yes. So even if you wanted to be a bank robber, as a coach, my job is to develop a framework, a process that can help you work towards that. So develop a way of coaching that's universal, that allows you to work out what you want to do and then identify ways to get there. So coaching isn't about necessarily even being an expert in the thing that you're coaching someone to do. It's being an expert in developing people. That's what it is. It's about knowing how to ask the right questions, knowing how to get people to think in a certain way to help them get on that pathway they want to get on. For me, some of the, I was always, his dialogue and narrative is very performance oriented because of his generation and because of his of the environment that he was in. But Frank Dick was always an amazing coach, I thought, because Frank Dick coached individuals across multiple sports. And I just found that fascinating, that he could be a coach to people in different sports. I know there are other examples of coaches that have tried to transfer between sports and found it a little bit difficult to do, but there are examples. One that was involved in British cycling, I won't name because there's a bit too much controversy probably attached to them. And of course, in the fictional world, the best example of this is Ted Lasso.
Yes.
And I appreciate.
Not documentary.
I know. I appreciate that it's a comedy, it's a fictional story, but to some extent that is a wonderful representation of what. There's a reason why it's my favourite TV programme, but that's a wonderful representation of what coaching is. What Ted doesn't do is he doesn't impose his values on other people. He doesn't impose his expectations on them. He doesn't suggest or imply goals that they should have around their athletic journey or footballing journey. What he does is he helps them work out who they are, what's important to them, and tries to show them ways that they can get there. And that's what coaching is all about. And honestly, I'm really frustrated with in the sport we function in. This is really difficult for us because we are constantly fighting performance all the time.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of coaching companies and individuals out there that imply they do what we do, but I know they don't, because it's still performance. Now, and the thing that's really hard for us is we talk about performance on our media channels, but honestly we can't not, because if we don't, no one pays any attention to what we're doing. True?
Yeah, it's true. Hands a bit forced on that one, really.
So it's this really frustrating paradox that if you don't deliver performance,
people aren't interested.
No one wants to listen to what you've got to say because everyone believes that you couldn't possibly. And again, Ted Lasso's when he's actually. This is not a spoiler because he's right in the first episode, but he actually gets employed by the football club that he coaches to sabotage the football club, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so he actually gets employed based on his incompetence rather than his competence. There's never a performance narrative in there for him. And was he the best coach for the club? Yes, again, I know it's a fictional story, but was he the best coach for the club? Yes, he was. But he wasn't employed on his performance. He was actually employed because they didn't think he'd be able to perform. And so for me, it's really frustrating because when I see people work with us and coaches like us, because there are coaches out there like us, it's transformational at a much deeper level and a much wider spectrum than most coaches are providing. Now, don't get me wrong. Being able to perform better as an athlete or a salesperson is nice, and may contribute to your sense of self, sense of well-being, sense of purpose. It might. I'm not saying it doesn't. I like to perform better as an athlete. So do you.
Yeah.
But if you lean on that goal and that objective too much, it can be really. What are you going to do if you can't achieve it, or something stops you being able to get there? Then what? If you haven't been taught by your coach how to be prepared for the unexpected, and how to have and haven't been coached how to behave in such a way that no matter what life throws at you, you can feel fulfilled and you can still achieve things, then I think you're being let down. Now, I'm not blaming the coaches for this, that call themselves coaches, because that is the word that we use. This is the world that we live in. Most of these coaches won't recognise that that's a problem because, and they're still doing good things for people. They're still helping people achieve things they never would have achieved. And in the moment, and certainly maybe even for years, those people believe that those things make them feel better. But I don't. I don't believe those things are necessarily going to make people feel better. Not really. What they're doing is they're filling a gap. They're filling a void. And when that thing goes away, they'll just look for the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. So they're just jumping from one thing to another, rather than creating a sustainable version of themselves that no matter what life throws them, they're going to feel fulfilled. Now, I'm not saying that no matter what life throws you is probably a misplaced statement, because there are always going to be things that are going to derail you more than you could possibly imagine, and you're not going to be able to cope with. You know, I know people that have had things happen to them in their adult life, and I think, I don't know if I could have coped with that. You know, and I think I'm pretty good at coping with most things and staying in a pretty balanced and fulfilled place. Again, we'll talk about credibility in a minute, maybe. But, you know, there are things that would probably, you know, I think, well, there's, you know, somebody I know broke their back or neck a few years ago. Another mate of mine had a really bad head injury last year. And I look at the situation they now find themselves in, and I'm like, I don't know. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, yeah, no, even in that situation, I'd be fine. There are some injuries I probably could visualise myself being all right with. But there are some I'm not too sure about. Like, I'm terrified of cancer, for example. Like, it really shits me up because I don't know if I'm equipped to deal with that. I don't know if I'm equipped to face early mortality. That's what I'm not sure about. So that does scare me. I don't know about that. So I'm not here and saying that you'll always be ready, because there were some things that you won't be ready for. But I think there are a lot of things that we could be more ready for that we're not. You know, I had a really bad crash last year.
Yeah.
Well, it's all subjective again.
Yeah.
But it was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad.
You know, and I probably will suffer the effects of that crash for the rest of my life. I'm nearly 50. The reality is I'm carrying some issues off the back of it now, 6 months later. And on that basis, because of the issues there's a good chance they're never going to go away, because I'm probably too old for me to recover fully from those things. And I'm all right with that, to be honest with you. I'm all right with it. Yeah, I'd rather that wasn't the case, but so what? You know, it could have been a lot worse. There's people that have a lot worse. And, you know, my job now is to work out, you know, what my journey looks like with those challenges and what the best version of me is, and then fulfill that. I've always been relatively confident that if I couldn't be an athlete anymore, that coaching, unless I was mentally incapacitated, I could always coach. And therefore, I would always be able to do something that made me feel fulfilled. You know, it isn't through living my successes through my coachees. That's narcissistic. That is, you get parents do that. Yeah. It's not about what I couldn't achieve, so what I'm going to do is push these athletes to achieve. So I basically fill my void through someone else's success. It's not about that. It's about, like, coaching being my purpose and helping people find out what they want to be, who they want to be, and then finding their way there being my role. And it's really important, that to me. Really important. It's tricky for you, isn't it? Because you obviously had a lot of athletic success.
Yeah, but when I think about it, I was just like reflecting on it.
I could see people who have been watching this on video have been watching you, like, thinking.
Oh, I don't know if it's my thinking face or my, like, dead face. Like,
Yeah.
it's not many.
You haven't dozed off.
I haven't dozed off. No. Sometimes my Garmin tells me I've had a nap from being on the podcast.
Thanks.
But yeah, no worries. But I was thinking, so I was like, when I first started to, like, get some, like, athletic success,
Yeah.
I was probably quite surprised, maybe like a little bit cavalier in my attitude as such, when how adamant you were that I needed to continue to think forwards, and how many times you said to me that this might not be, like, don't take this for granted.
Yeah.
What are your contingencies? Like, how have you set yourself up? So if for any reason this isn't something that is suddenly part of your life, or you're not able to do anymore,
then what?
Yeah. And, like, there was a lot of conversations, and I was maybe, like, a bit taken aback and probably took it a little bit like, oh, well, it's always going to be fine, isn't it? Rather than thinking, like, much more deeply about the fact that could be the case, and it could be the case in any moment.
And at the level you were at, the margins are small. So it didn't have to be much to take that away from you, which you've discovered.
I have discovered, yes. And it makes you then think, because in those, like, I guess, few years, like, in between, like, having the success and then dipping off, I've probably clutched at my athletic identity too much, which then hasn't led to necessarily the best decision making as a result of it, rather than being really clear on what that, like, purpose and identity actually was. Yeah. To not be trying to fill a void. And the paradox is that the reason you had the athletic success, I wasn't focusing on athletic success. All you were talking about is who you were. Yeah. And what day by day being the best Lydia meant, and the athletic success kind of happened by accident. And interestingly, at the moment, we're seeing the same journey with this other lady.
girl, woman. I'm really paranoid about that. Coachee. Well, I just like the fact that I do like the fact that it's a female coachee, because I think that, well, honestly, I think women are much better at doing this than men.
Well, yes.
Much easier to coach. Men are quite easy to train. Women are easier to coach. Women are also easier to train, to be honest with you, but
women are just better in general.
They are. Yes, if I'm honest, as a coach, you gave me if you said like you could only ever coach one sex for the rest of your life, I don't know if sex is the right word to use, I would say I'll coach women, thanks. Yeah, without I wouldn't even have to consider it. Like, men are dickheads. They really are. You know, like, I'm going to alienate all the men listening to the podcast, but I really...
Should we stay on topic as well?
Yeah. Anyway, the challenge we're going to face with this girl now, is that she is going to achieve probably quite a lot of athletic success, way more than she probably anticipated. And we've encouraged her to have a go at a slight variation of her sport, because not only will she is going to be better at it, but that's by the by. I think she'll enjoy it more, full stop. She's just turned out to be really good at it as well, way better than I expected her to. And I don't have any concerns about that affecting the way that she sees herself, if I'm honest, because she's also come to us a lot later in our journey as coaches. We understand a lot more about like the pitfalls of attaching too much of who you are to that. And she's therefore learned a way of thinking, talking, writing, speaking, acting that should protect her from that possibility. As a result, she'll probably unlock more of her potential as an athlete than she ever imagined or she ever could have if she'd set herself athletic goals. But her long-term well-being will be protected, because if for any reason she decides to not do that thing anymore, let's say, for example, she doesn't intrinsically enjoy it anymore and she decides to change and do something else, her identity and her level of fulfillment won't be attached to that. So that's really interesting. Now, like I said, I'm not blaming the coaches for this, because the narrative that we exist in, the societal narrative that we exist in, is such that all we talk about is performance.
Yeah.
And all we own when it comes to coaches and coaches, all we celebrate is the ones that can get people to a high level of performance. That's all we think about. The irony is there's a lot of talk in, well, I say the narrative. No, it is the narrative, because when you really look at it, there's this kind of deliberate false narrative going on about the taking part and self-betterment and fulfillment, and LinkedIn is particularly full of it. You know, there's a lot of it on, everyone's celebrating the video about Frank Dick, talking about the girl that was better this time than she was last time, and therefore that's a win. But the reality is, people know that that's how they should be, but that's not what's happening, because we still celebrate winners all the time. We idolise them in a way that's unhealthy. You know, you get this quite a lot. People idolising you because of what you've achieved athletically, and you don't. It's frustrating. And some of those people are people that have, like, not been rude, have got their shit together a lot more than you have.
Yeah.
Is that all right to say that? I've said it, man.
Yeah.
It's true though.
I'm just trying to think about
But it's true though, right? What do you mean? Like, I can't think of it. I'm just trying to think about you thinking about this. No, I can't think of anybody. I really have got my shit together, mate.
No, I haven't. I'm working on it. It's always a work in progress, isn't it? Yeah, the idolisation piece is weird.
The tumbleweed.
Yeah, no. It's just because what I was going to say before you interrupted me was I when people started to come up to me after races, after I started to do well, I thought they were seeing me, not the result.
Yeah.
That was the piece that I didn't realise until maybe a few years later.
Yeah.
Is that they were only fascinated because of how fast I was. They weren't interested because of who I was.
So what you thought is that your athletic achievement had put you on their radar.
Yeah.
But the reason that they wanted to engage with you is because they knew who you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they didn't know of your existence. All that the athletic achievement had done is created an awareness of your existence in their mind.
Yeah.
Then they'd learn who you were, and then they decided to engage with you. But that isn't how people are.
No.
People won't engage with you because of what you'd achieved.
Yeah.
They didn't really care who you were. And we get this a lot, don't they? People don't actually give any thought to whether or not this person
is actually adding value to the world.
Yeah, because there's a lot of very popular athletes in our sport, for example. There's a lot of athletes that people constantly celebrating, and they're arseholes. We know some of them. there's some great people out there as well, but some of them are absolute dickheads, and they really don't do any good at all. And behind the scenes, they're really bloody horrible. But because they're good and they talk the right talk and they say the right things on social media in particular, when everyone celebrates them all the time, it's really bloody irritating. It's the same with coaches. Coaches ticking some of the boxes for people, but for most coaches, their primary objective is to get people performing better, so there's something for them to talk about, so they can get more people and more clients. Some coaches think they're getting it right. There are some coaches out there that are really nailing like the camaraderie and the relatedness part of people's journeys, creating some wonderful cultures, like wonderful environments, bringing people together and helping people experience things they might never experience. But it's not enough. It's not enough because
it doesn't get down to like it sort of temporarily fixes some problems
rather
than actually sustainably fixing the problems. You don't want to just plaster over things.
Because you're part of a club that's great fun to be part of.
To continue. Because they'll only regress otherwise.
Well, what happens if that club no longer exists?
Yeah, exactly.
Then what? Your job as a coach is to equip people to almost deal with anything. That's what you're trying to do. From the day you start working with them, you're constantly moving forwards towards that point. And you need a strategy in place that helps people do that. And that if someone goes off and does something else with their life away from you, you've given them the tools to be brilliant at that, in line with their potential. And that's the thing that really matters about coaching. So I think that when as someone who's potentially looking for a coach, that, like I said, there are some wonderful ones out there, but I feel like you've got to be careful. You've got to understand what it is you're looking for, and you mustn't fall into the trap of looking for the or finding the wrong person. And my perspective, do you know what? My perspective on what a coach is hasn't really changed that much, because like when I first started coaching, one of the things that used to baffle me, and I'll just try and explain this for our non-triathlon listeners if there are any, but if you're a triathlete, you'll normally have some sort of online calendar training plan. So you'll have a specific calendar that's designed to accommodate a training plan. We use Train Exhale, and there are other training calendar providers are available.
Correct.
But we use Train Exhale. They don't sponsor us, but we really value the relationship we have and the platform we have, and it works really well for our style of coaching. And when I've taken on coaches that have worked with other coaches, one of the things that almost always is the case is, let's say they have 12 training sessions through a week, roughly 2 a day, 6 days a week. There isn't feedback from the coach on every one.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes there isn't even like qualitative feedback from the coachee.
Tool from the week as well.
Yeah, so they'll have uploaded the data from the session, but there's nothing else from the coachee, and then there's nothing from the coach. And I was when I saw this for the first time, I was just taken back. I was like, what's going on here? Like there's got to be something wrong with the IT. Something's not right here, because that wouldn't happen, would it? Like no one would pay a coach and then not feedback every session and then carry on
multiple times on the same session.
Carry on.
Questions
right. Or if you were paying a coach and they let you as a coachee not feedback, like they didn't challenge you on it. I couldn't get my head around it. And that really, the first, like, because when I very first started, that was like just a basic standard I thought would be, otherwise what you do, what you been paid for, right? And if you're not paid enough to do that, then ask for more money and be better at what you do. I personally think, or at least be upfront with someone about what you're providing them. And again, if you are just providing a training plan and that's the product, then I suppose that's fine, but don't pretend that it's something else. That's the thing that's really annoying. And if your coaches outgrow you and what you can provide them, then move them on to someone that can provide them with what they need. We outsource to experts when we can't provide our coaches with something specific. We even recommend deeper psychological support for coaches if they if their needs are beyond our remit, because we can't overstep the mark. But I could never get my head around that, and I think it's because I'd grown up in a corporate environment where the coaching standard was extremely high. If I'm honest, it was exceptionally high. I grew up in a household with one literal world-class coach. So my dad was an international hockey coach. At one point he held an award that was extremely rare, and ranked him in some of the very, very best hockey coaches in the entire world. But he had a very holistic approach to coaching. He was very autocratic, and dictatorial, and very performance driven, but he did have quite a holistic approach to coaching as well. And my mum was a primary school teacher, again with a very holistic view of child development. And so for me, what I was seeing other coaches doing really shocked me, and it continues to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we've ever taken a coachee from another coach. Not taken from another coach. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Yeah. We've never had a coachee start with us who's worked with a previous coach who's had feedback on every training session they've done.
Yeah, we haven't.
Ever.
No, never.
That I can recall. And I find that bewildering, especially when you consider that in our case, we ask our coaches to write qualitative feedback, so subjective and qualitative feedback on every training session they do.
Yeah.
On their recovery, so on their rest days, why they had a rest day, how they felt, all these sorts of things. Diary entries, logging any personal development work they might have done. At the end of the week, a weekly review of their behavioural execution and their personal development and their learning. On our Monday night seminars, a review of what they learned and what was covered on the seminar. Often with our coaches, recovery metrics with some narrative around
every day,
every single day. What was their sleep like? Why was it like it was? What did they do? Etc. etc. I find it bewildering that coaches can't even manage to feedback on
like one session,
a dozen, a dozen sessions a week, and then say things like, "Well, you're only on my bronze package," And it's funny enough. Gosh, I am really going off on one today, aren't I? When I first started, I tried out like having different packages, like bronze, silver, gold. I can't remember what I called them. I think it was probably that. And I very, very quickly realised that you couldn't do that. Not if you really wanted to provide a proper coaching service, because what you said was, because you pay me less money, I'm just going to be a little bit shitter.
Shitter for you, yeah. Exactly.
And I was like, no, do you know what? The standard's a standard, and I'm just going to have to charge what I need to charge to provide that. There's no, do you know what? If you pay me less, I'll just provide you with a poorer standard of coaching. That's basically what I was doing, what I was attempting to do, and in the end, I couldn't deal with it. Because what I ended up doing was giving all my bronze coaches the same service anyway, and then commercially I couldn't survive. So I just went, right, well, this is the standard of my coaching, that's it. And over the years we provided scholarships and discounts to people where affordability is a genuine issue, because we don't want to price people out. But people do, the people that annoy me are the ones that I know can afford it but won't invest because they're tight, or they think they'll get away with lesser input. Maybe they do, but I don't think. I think long term, what you need from a coach is and what coaches have responsibility to provide is to develop people to some extent where they largely don't need that coach anymore. No matter what they get thrown at in life, they have a process to manage it. And so coaching is that for me. It's not about you telling the athlete what they can achieve or the coachee what they can achieve. It might, it's about helping them seeing something they can't see, helping them see it, not even tell them what it is necessarily, helping them see it, and then working alongside them to find the path to getting them there, and making sure that at any given moment, if they need to change what they see, they know how to do that. That's what I think coaching is about. And I think as a society, we need to get better. Even in the corporate world, it was about, I wasn't as experienced back then, but it was about equipping my team members with skills that would allow them to go on and do something else with their life further down in the line. And when I look back, that's what I'm most proud of. And I look at what some of my my line reports or staff or whatever you want to call them have achieved after me, that's what I'm most proud of. Then I know I've done a good job. It wasn't how good they were at hitting their target when they were in the environment they were in. It's what they've done since. And for me, my best coaches are the ones that gave me something that allowed me to do something wonderful after I wasn't working with them anymore for whatever reason. So that is what I think coaching is all about. And that covers it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? I don't know if that was ranty enough, to be honest with you.
I think it was a good balance.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't want people to be... I'm not... if you think, he's talking about me, I might be, I might not be. You've got to work that out. You've got to work that out for yourself, and if you feel attacked, then, well, do you know what?
On the flip side, come and have a look at what we do.
Yeah.
We're open and
If
transparent.
if you feel attacked, come and see what we're doing. And do you know what? You might learn something, you might not. You might think, no, what a bunch of dickheads.
Yeah.
What they're doing is shit. That's fine. You can think that. It's not a problem at all. You're perfectly entitled to that opinion. And I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe my perception of what coaching is biased, misplaced, warped, all those kinds of things. But this is what I believe. This is what's important to me. For those of you out there, either coaches or coachees, that feel like, actually, do you know what? I like that. I like what I've heard today. Get in touch with me and we'll talk to you about what it is we do. Not for free, because we are a business. But we will, get in touch and we'd be more than happy to help you. And if you, like I said, if you feel attacked, come and talk to us about that. Say, look, I was a bit offended by what you said, and you can explain to me why, and I can talk to you about what it is we do, why we feel like we feel. And you might, you'll learn one of two things. You'll either learn how to do something better, or you'll learn that you still believe what you're doing is right. And then you'll have courage and conviction in what you're doing, and you can carry on staying on that path. And either way, I'm happy, because I've done something good for you, right? So you don't have to agree with me to get benefit from what I'm saying. Disagreeing might give you the benefit you need. You might know, what a twat, he's talking shit, I am right. And if what I'm saying convinces you that you're right, brilliant, that's great, because you might be, and I might be getting it all wrong. So,
But if you have enjoyed this podcast,
if you have enjoyed the podcast,
please do remember to like, subscribe, and share.
God knows if that was
I'm going to just wrap it up. You'll be going on.
Yeah, I probably will. Yeah. But this is important to me.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Do share, subscribe to the podcast, and also do reach out to us if you do have any questions, thoughts, or comments.
Cool, thanks.